So have you guys noticed the way that RPGs have been awkwardly mating with other genres? In 2015, we've got RPG shooters, RPG sports, and RPG MMO Dragon Ball Z fighting games. Huh. But years before this sort of genre combining became a trend, there was one legendary game that mixed 3D adventure chocolate with mascot kart racing peanut butter.
It's Banjo-Kazooie!
No! Shut up, John Lovitz, not this time! Banjo-Kazooie was supposed to be the big game for Christmas 1997, but in late August, Nintendo announced that the Baron Bird would have to be delayed. But no worries, they had a surprise to fill the gap. Diddy Kong Racing! Nobody even knew this game existed, and yet a mere 3 months later, we were playing it. So how did Rare blindside us like this? To answer that question, let's back all the way up to 1987 for a game called RC Pro-Am. It was one of the most popular of Rare's many NES titles. 10 years later, and a team at Rare, who is now one of the most prolific and iconic developers in the world, is working on a sequel. Pro-Am 64! Okay, I'll stop. Behind closed doors at E3 that summer, Rare showed this game off to Shigeru Miyamoto himself. Miyamoto suggested that instead of trying to bring back the dormant Pro-Am series, why not utilize a character that Rare itself hadn't just created, but made famous? Why not give the starring role, the title role, to Diddy Kong? So a few months later, when Chris Sutherland's Banjo team realized the game just wouldn't make the Christmas deadline, Rare already had something much further along that could serve as a replacement, and the characters and story kind of speak to this iterative nature. Timber the Tiger lives peacefully on an island not too far from Donkey Kong Island, but when an alien warlord named Wizpig invades Timber's home, he writes to his friend Diddy for help. Diddy and Timber gather a group of allies. Actually, half the cast originates from the game's earlier design, 2 characters hailed from upcoming Rare games, and a Kremling even followed Diddy, I guess to make sure he doesn't accidentally commit genocide again. Along with an elephant genie and a sentient stopwatch, this group sets out to kick Wizpig back to the planet he came from. Oh, and also Wizpig is like obsessed with racing for some reason, and Timber's Island just so happens to feature a variety of racetracks, so of course that's how we're going to resolve this conflict. It's a kart racer with a plot, cut it some slack. Although actually, this is a lot more than just a kart racer. You could also race in planes and hovercraft, which let Rare design more diverse courses and opened up all kinds of versus mode combinations.
Plane versus kart, kart versus hovercraft, hovercraft versus kart, plane versus plane, kart versus kart, hovercraft versus hovercraft.
The other big innovation was the adventure mode. Like a 3D platformer of the era, Diddy Kong Racing had an explorable hub, from which you would unlock 5 worlds, each with 4 tracks. Win all 4 tracks in a world, and you'll take on a boss. Outrace the boss, and you'll go through the courses again, but this time you'll need to collect 8 silver coins on each track and come in first. Do that, and you'll challenge the boss a second time, and now they're difficult bordering on unfair. I don't mind a cheating, conniving video game boss, but some players will find this very frustrating. If you beat the boss again, you'll unlock that world's trophy race, a traditional Grand Prix where the CPU is much more challenging. This is a nice difficulty curve. You'll have plenty of opportunity to learn the layout of each course before the ultimate trophy race, but it does seem a little bit too convoluted. There's one step too many, and it's the silver coin challenge. While sometimes they might clue you in on shortcuts, the coins are often scattered in some very inconvenient places, so it's almost certain that you'll have to play a track at least twice more to get them all, and that's if you manage to come in first. Rare could have cut down the number of silver coins and made their locations less esoteric, or just nixed the concept altogether. It's not awful, it's just repetitive, but it is the only real misstep in an otherwise fantastic design. Diddy Kong Racing was always compared to a game that came out at the beginning of '97, Mario Kart 64. It wasn't really a fair comparison, because Diddy wiped the floor with Mario! Thanks in part to the multiple vehicles, the course design was way ahead of its time, with a sense of place and variety that Mario Kart wouldn't match for years. The game was more technical and nuanced. The CPU did not cheat. The item system wasn't as flashy, but what it lacked in bombastic chaos, it made up for in balance. The focus was on skill, not luck. God, it had boss battles and mini-games and genies and keys, and an amazing dynamic soundtrack by David Wise, and TT the talking stopwatch! Even now, I am blown away by just how well it's holding up. It's been 18 years, yet parts of it still feel so groundbreaking, so avant-garde. The one place I would give Mario Kart the edge, though, is accessibility. It's kind of like comparing Street Fighter to Smash Bros. I love both titles, but as similar as they seemed, they were trying to accomplish very different goals. Diddy Kong Racing is more balanced, yes, but that means that how much fun you're having is tied much more closely to how good you already are. I've learned the hard way, it's not really the kind of game you can bust out at parties. It kind of occupied the same relation to Mario Kart that Sega All-Stars Racing has now. And wait a minute, Banjo was in the Xbox version of that game! And the sequel had karts and boats and planes! Ah, it all comes around. In an industry where we often know about upcoming games years in advance, that Rare, a developer so notorious for taking their time, managed to fill the gap left by Banjo-Kazooie on such short notice with a game as good as Diddy Kong Racing was a holiday miracle, a testament to what a hot streak the company was on. Everything Rare touched turned to gold. When it was released, Diddy Kong Racing garnered high praise and became the fastest selling video game there ever was to that point. In the years since, the game's cast has forced it into a bit of a legal gray area, and their obscurity means that it's sometimes forgotten amid Rare's litany of N64 classics. And that's a shame, because this was the game that united those gems into a shared universe. Diddy Kong Racing ended on a cliffhanger that has yet to be resolved, and I still hope that WizPig will return someday. Next week though, Donkey Kong himself is finally back to kick some tail. Oh, and to collect everything. Until then though, keep geeking!